And so we're going to go ahead and give you a few housekeeping. And you all know the drill. Here, let's meet the team. My name is Ruth Jordan. I'm your moderator for tonight. I'm the manager for the City of Charleston's Office of Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprises. Our technical support person is Mrs. Christina Ott, our new business service manager with Business and Neighborhood Services for the City of Charleston. And we have a great rock star speaker tonight, Mr. Bobby Teachey, project manager with Brownstone Construction Company. Just a few housekeeping. This presentation is being recorded and it will be available via YouTube. Participants' videos and audio is off. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A box to put your questions, and we'll be trying to answer your questions throughout the presentation tonight. Our presenter tonight, I'm happy to present my friend, Mr. Bobby Teachey. He's a project manager and construction manager with Brownstone Construction Group. Bobby holds a bachelor's in civil engineering from North Carolina A&T State University, has a master's in project management from Keller Graduate School of Management. He has been a staff sergeant for 8 years in the U.S. Army Reserves. He's a member and volunteer for the National Society of Black Engineers. He serves on the Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce Executive Board, and he has several professional experience. Let me just share just a few. Bobby served as the project manager of a $385 million project with the MUSC Sean Jenkins Children's Hospital. He also served as the project manager of the $100 million project of the International African American Museum. It's the City of Charleston's project. He also served as the project manager as the NASCAR Hall of Fame project that was $89 million. Bobby's commitment to serve and his personal mandate to solve problems and create opportunities is woven into every facet of his life. His vast community services work includes many organizations, and he embodies a reputation of selfless service, determination, and making progress. I introduce to some and present to others our rock star presenter, my friend, Mr. Bobby Teachey. Take it away.
Well, definitely. Thank you for that great intro. It's always weird to see your information on the screen and somebody reads it out. So definitely thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ruth and Christina for having me here today in the City of Charleston. I'm just glad to share what little bit we have here, and I can jump right on in. We can get started. All right, let me make sure I can do this right. I'm gonna share my screen. And
yes, you can.
There we go. You can see it? Nope.
Put it in presentation mode.
All right, here we go. We get it right. Hit the buttons. Make it work.
There we go.
All right. Whew. It's always like a 50-50 chance there. You never know. All right. So definitely, again, just thank you so much for having me here. Open it up. If you see questions in the chat or anything like that, by all means, just jump in. We'll just try to go through a little bit here. You won the contract, now what? And so the biggest piece, just want to kind of give a little quick overview, try to give a little bit of Brownstone information. We'll go through a little bit of the construction risk management that's around that, contract compliance. We'll talk about the drawings and specifications, kind of the review and what's required there. And then the material and labor, the sequence or scheduling sequence, logistics, and then the payment terms. Kind of all in this big basket of, now that you have the contract, what's the next biggest things? And just to throw it out there, this is not everything after you win a contract. But I think if you focus in these areas, it'll really help you to understand where you should go and ask the right questions, so you can always get to that last piece down there, the payment terms. So if you got questions as we go along, by all means, please ask them, put them in the chat. If I miss it, please, Ms. Ruth, let me know. And we can ask them as we go through or at the end. All right. she already read my bio, all that fun stuff. And so just that big piece in there. Again, it's just funny to see all your stuff that you've done, but just the biggest thing that I love to do a lot is really serve through many different organizations, but the ones that really stand out to me in the construction industry is usually my National Society of Black Engineers, which I've been a part of for over almost 2 or 3 decades now. And then ACE Mentors, really big here in Charleston. For me, I've done it in multiple cities, but that's really where you get in front of high school students and you're able to really try to influence the next generation of contractors and builders. So 2 really near dear to my heart organizations that I really push for. Just as a quick overview for Brownstone, for many that don't know, Brownstone started in 2005. We have offices in Savannah, North Charleston, Columbia, and Charlotte. We're looking to open up our next one here in Greensboro. And then we have a lot of little satellite offices around South Carolina. A lot of stuff we do is really focused around, we have like 3 or 4 sides of the house: program management, CM at risk, and we then get into a little bit of architectural design and engineering services as a whole. And so been around since 2005, and so still moving forward. From the makeup of our company, we are an African-American owned firm. In the top left, that's Dale Collier, President and CEO of Brownstone. And then this is a majority of our staff that we have kind of situated around the state in different areas. Won many different kinds of awards. You can kind of see there in the bottom left. And then, yep, we're definitely a state certified MBE county, but the most important one is the city of Charleston, which I think we just we renewed our membership or our certification. And that's, I'm pretty sure you probably had this on the earlier presentations. I will tell everybody on this phone or on this discussion, you want to be certified with the city of Charleston. That is where you will get a lot of your jobs and opportunities. Brownstone has been afforded that opportunity there. And the biggest piece is that's usually where I go to find a lot of contractors on my projects. And just because most organizations and owners, they require certifications, and the city of Charleston has one of the best lists. I'll throw it out there every time I get a chance. That directory will save me on a lot of projects as I find people who are available. So just throw it out there to everybody. Again, our expertise down here in the Low Country is where I specialize with Brownstone. And so we've done work, City of Charleston, North Charleston, MUSC, Charleston County, Berkeley, and Dorchester. So we do a lot in the Low Country with many different projects and different owners and clients in the Tri-County area. Some of our notable projects recently that we finished, the City of North Charleston, we did the Aquatic Center there, $36 million project. And we also did in North Charleston the new transit center. If you got a chance to ride on the train, really fun project. I say fun, long project, but fun. And so there's one of our clients, the City of Charleston, one of our notable projects, where currently we're working on the International African American Museum project. Been on the project since 2016. And so we're at that last stage. And I'm sure everybody has probably gotten the donation cards and becoming a donor and charter member there. So looking to open here in January with the IAM staff there, and really fun stuff and impactful for the city of Charleston as a whole. And then just one last project here at the MUSC, Medical University of South Carolina, where we did the Sean Jenkins Children's Hospital as mentioned before, but then as well, we're doing the College School of Pharmacy and like 2 other projects over there for MUSC. Again, another projects that we're doing, just Brownstone as a big piece. All right, enough talking about Brownstone. I know I'll get deeper into what we're really here. So now you won the contract and you're like, what's the next steps? Really and truthfully, the first thing that we always do in Brownstone, and we always try to push for our contractors, is you're really getting into construction risk management. And you really want to look at it from the side of, well, what are you truly managing? As it's a lot. If you get that contract and you read it, I am sure there's a lot of stuff in there that you really need to pay attention to. A lot of it centers around some of this risk that you're really trying to make sure you have your foothold in, because a lot of times you're only looking at maybe the project as a risk and how are you managing that. But then there's a lot of other stuff that comes into legal, the finance, the safety on the project. or whatever that service or good you might be providing, and then really the environment in which you're actually providing that service. And so these are kind of the tenets that are around managing the risk associated with it. And you really have to get deeper into it. And so what we typically try to do is put the risk in 4 categories. And sometimes you can get a mix that makes it work the best. But the first one would always be, how do you avoid the risk, right? If it's something, and this is very hard for a lot of small minority women-owned businesses, is you will always just take on work. Well, the first thing you got to be able to do is say, is that risk, is that contract worth it? Do I really want to provide whatever is inside of there? Because that contract is going to hold you to exactly what you have to provide. And a lot of times, whatever's in that RFP or that RFQ or that bid request, it's going to tell you exactly in writing what you're supposed to provide. And the first thing you got to say is, can I provide that? And if you can't, that's risk that you want to avoid. You don't just want to take it on because you'll be held to the letter of the contract that's there. The next is, well, maybe you take it on and you want to transfer some of that risk. So what that really typically points into is the insurance and performance bonds, where you get it. We all talk about surety companies and things like that. You also have to think about it, because a lot of times surety companies and bonding companies that give you your P&P bonds, or they give anything that's associated with your work that they're backing you for, sometimes you might not want to take that on, as well as that risk of, I might have to pay $10,000 for this $2 million bond, and that's things, again, you have to say, do I want to take that risk on by transferring it to another association or group? Another one is, how do you mitigate the risk, is saying, all right, are you equipped and trained? Do you have the certifications? Do you have the qualifications to actually provide that? And then do your workers, are they able to provide it? And that's where you really got to figure out, well, maybe you need to provide training. Some contracts as well, you can build into your number training and certificates, certifications. Matter of fact, I recently had one on for the city of Charleston, for the museum. We had to go and add into our contract, it's kind of has Whopper training, but basically it's unsuitable soils in downtown Charleston, where there used to be cannonballs and all kinds of stuff. And so we added into the contract, the way to mitigate that was we added an allowance in there that, hey, if we had to go get a certification to dispose of uncontaminated or contaminated soils, we wanted to make sure we had the proper certifications, or we'd be able to go get an agency that could provide it for us. That's how you mitigate the risk, by looking at some of that. And then again, you accept the risk, where then you put in contingency plans, and we all do that, where you put a little percentage number on top of something, or you break out ways to make sure that you're really managing the risk around what's associated. And understand, you can mix all of these. Typically, a contract will have all of these things in there. It's just you have to kind of figure it out and figure out how you slice the pie up, then it works best for you. If you're not doing any of this, if you just won that contract, you might want to go through and start separating some of this to see what you can do for that piece to protect your company. So we talk about contracts, and there's in a lot of agencies, they have contract compliance officers. Well, the biggest piece of complying with the contract and what's the letter of the law that's in there, some of the bigger pieces that will always you want to talk about is when you're looking at the contract. And I'm gonna look specifically at construction contracts, because it's what I do, construction. So it makes it a little easier for me to look at it. These are usually contract terms that literally you go down in the contract and it'll go down paragraph, section such and such, description of work, section such and such, overtime, section for liens, dimensions, shop drawings. These are things typically inside of a construction contract that they literally will spell out sections in the contract, and it'll have full-on definitions and terms under each one of those sections. And for me, in our conversation today, the biggest ones that always impact us usually is the description of work. Am I doing the right work that I'm actually asked to do? Good example of that, you might be a painter and you get a painting contract. Well, sometimes in that painting contract, division 9, it might have in there, you're going to install wallpaper. And guess what? A lot of painting companies, small minority-owned businesses, they do not install wallpaper, but it would be in that painting contract. And so that's where looking at that description of work before you, hopefully before you send your bid in, that'll really, it'll explain what you're supposed to do under your scope of work. Again, planning and schedules, the payment progress, we'll talk about that, drawing the specifications. What will get you in trouble most of the time, you might want to read about the defective work, i.e. you installed something and it either is wrong, does not work, or needs to be replaced. That'll always get us in trouble. And then the labor that's always there that's associated, and then logistics that we'll kind of talk about as well. Everything else in there is just, you can have a seminar on every last one of these, but just for today, focusing on these, I think if you kind of look at it, these are ones that always get us in trouble on a lot of our contracts. So here's a contract that came through. You want to be able to, and this is a City of Charleston contract. And looks like this one was for, capital projects. ABC Construction, they got something for 1.2 million, and it's a guaranteed maximum price contract. These are terms that are very, very important because there's different types of contracts that if you don't know how that contract operates, you'll walk into it thinking, oh, well, I should get paid every month. I should get on, I should have this, and that contract might, I can put a change order in for this, and that contract might be lump sum, and you're sitting there trying to ask for extra money, and they're like, nope, what number you gave us at the top is it. This GMP that's here, you might have each line item cost a specific amount, and you would not be able to go ask for more to go do that work if it doesn't change something. And so a typical contract here, again, you're looking at all the things that are important. One, that your contract name is right. The subject of whatever that item is, make sure you're doing the right work for whatever that RFP you responded to. You want to make sure you got your contract amount that's right in there, because that's what they wrote the contract for. And if it's wrong or if it's incorrect, don't go sign that contract. You might want to kick it back over and have some discussions. Maybe they missed a zero, who knows?
And so, Bobby, that's a great point. So the first thing is, if you won the contract, make sure before you sign that it is exactly what you're expecting to do. We were building upon the scope of work that we talked about on last week. And so those are some common mistakes that sometimes the mistake could be on the owner or could be on you. Like you said, make sure you understand that if you're contracting for $1.2 million, that's in there, right? Is that what you're saying? Make sure you read the contract before signing.
Oh, everybody loves an incomplete contract, don't they? Because it only works out for the person who gave it to you.
Exactly.
So
there's no such thing as I thought.
Oh, no.
What you sign is what you are expecting to do.
Yeah, and the hard part in that, or the more realistic way to look at it is, if you put this you hate to say if you go to litigation, right? If you were to put this in front of a very neutral party, some legal entity, all they are given is the piece of paper. You're not even usually there to argue your point. They're going to look at that and they're going to read it and say, well, you said you could do construction for a new bathroom facility and an upfit for an office space for $1.2 million. And you sign that. And then you're going to come in and say, well, no, it's actually $12 million. And they're going to say, oh, you signed the contract for 1.2. And that's, and it's hard for anybody to say, well, why did you sign the contract then? And that's to Ms. Ruth's point, that's exactly it. So it's a hard conversation, especially after the fact. Another big piece is, again, in construction, is the drawings and specifications. Again, we're looking at risk mitigation, right? This is where a lot of people get in trouble. So in construction, truthfully, in just about every contract you get, if there's something that's tied to a specification or some design or something that's saying, hey, you're supposed to order this, it literally usually spells it out. It will tell you exactly where to go get something. It'll tell you how many to get, where to go provide it. It'll tell you exactly where, like, you can't go off this. The one thing that'll kill a lot of us and it hurts us every time is, well, this is just how I've always done it. That right there will get you in trouble every time. I'll give a good example of this. At the children's hospital, we were the drywall package itself, we had estimated right around, it was like $12 million. And we had about 10 contractors bid for it. Everybody was coming in right around that area, except for like 1 or 2 people. 2 contractors were coming in at $5 million, and they were minority owned companies. And I knew instantly why their number was almost 5 million short. They were I hate to say this, I hope nobody hears from MUSC. They were almost ready to sign a $5 million contract, knowing that they were about 5 to 6 million low. And they were going to hold them to it. And the reason was because in hospitals, they have x-ray, rooms that have x-rays and scans. Well, some of that drywall in there is actually lead-based for radiation that can't go through the walls. Well, if you're sitting here doing your takeoff or you doing your estimating and you're sitting here counting it as regular drywall, well, there's a difference between $20 drywall and $450 per sheet drywall because of that lead-based drywall. And I knew instantly, and they were like, oh yeah. But the RFP had already went out, the bid date had passed. And that's why, again, looking at the specifications, knowing exactly what's supposed to be provided, because nobody's going to look back and say you didn't read something that was there. If it tells you to get Sherwin-Williams paint, don't go out here and get Benjamin Moore or something your uncle gave you out the back of your truck. There's a reason for that. They tell you exactly what to get. So this always gets us in trouble, and you end up in these weird conversations. But nobody, again, the city's spending money. They gave you this contract, and they're asking you to follow it based on the specifications and design. That's all I can say on that. It always gets us in trouble, I promise you.
Exactly. But one of the things that you can do in a contract is that if you can't find something before you go out and purchase it, you got to ask them, would they accept a substitute?
Yes.
You can't just show up with paint from Home Depot when they told you Benjamin Williams. So Benjamin Moore. So you need to make sure that if there is going to be a substitute, you have to make sure that you've gotten approval before you go out and spend that money, because you will be on the hook, because they'll reject that paint and you won't get paid for it.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that. Well, how do you ask if I can change out what that is? It's usually a request for information. Literally, most of the time for construction projects or projects in general, you can actually send something over. I'm gonna say this as well. You need to send things over in writing. Handshakes, having verbal conversations will usually not hold up anywhere, especially when you're talking about spending money. So usually like this is easy to us. There's usually a form for construction. There's a form they call request for information, it's an RFI or a substitution request form. And what you can do is you can actually send in a question about something you want to provide and say, like we just said, hey, this Home Depot paint that you're asking for is this, and you could save this much money. I see it says Sherwin-Williams over here. Can I use the Home Depot paint? And usually you'll get it back in writing, and they'll tell you exactly how to stay calm and follow their instructions. They might come back and say, yes, you can use that Home Depot paint. We're okay with it. Or they might come back and tell you, no, kick rocks and use our Sherwin-Williams paint as said in our instructions. And that's how you protect yourself, right? Because if you go out there and use the paint that's not specified, you are then on the hook to go back and now not only repaint it, but you're going to have to get back out there and spend your own money probably to remove it and then repaint it. So now you're spending twice, if not 3 times the amount of money for the time and materials that you'd have to go do it. So it's easier than you can think. And a lot of times it's just again, the risk management is protect yourself, get everything in writing. I've even seen it where if I have a verbal conversation with somebody, I will send an email from my phone while we're standing there and say, per our conversation on such and such date, you said that I can use Home Depot paint. Please confirm before close of business or I will proceed. And literally that'll hold up in court any day of the week, because again, somebody gave you direction, you're just following up in writing. So it makes it easier to have those conversations as the project's going.
And so that goes into a question that Mrs. Abigail sent.
Oh.
Should you provide a sample? Or can you provide a sample of what you're presenting?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of times, something that you're providing as a substitute, even though you might list whatever that item is and the model number and the make, you sometimes might have to go get a sample of it and send it to the owner, the architect, the designer, and say, hey, I know what's specified, but I want to provide this. And a lot of times they'll sign off on it. Unless it's something very specific that they need, then usually, yep, you just have to send over a sample for it and they'll sign off on it. Usually depends on, now, if you make them angry through the project, they probably ain't gonna sign off on anything. So again, relationships, right? So you have to as well kind of understand that sometimes if you don't make them your friend, they can become your enemy at the same time. Good question. That's a really good question. Here's an example of a house that's being built, and you want to be able to put in, you're the drywaller, you're putting in things, and you instantly, I'll tell you this, even if you get a drawing or a specification and you get a drawing that looks like this, before you go and build this, I mean, we can all look at this and see that, hey, well, what's wrong with this? I mean, would you want to live in a house that looks like a mousetrap? I mean, you see this up here, and you can send in an RFI, take their drawing. You are the professional, you are the expert. You do this every day. And all you do is you go and you cloud a drawing, take their drawing and mark it up with a pencil or pen and say, hey, these walls in the middle, they look a little raggedy, right? Hey, can you confirm that this wall is actually 15 feet 6 inches? Or, hey, we would like to relocate this wall by 4 feet 8 inches west. Please confirm. And then all they'll do in that RFI is send it back to you, and either they'll confirm or they'll say no. It's either or, but at least now you're building exactly what's there. So if I'm giving away general contractor secrets here, so if you go off and build it and say the building inspector comes back and they're like, nope, not approved, or this doesn't get passed, you can always go back to that RFI and say, you gave me direction to build this and I did it exactly how you asked me to. I even asked a question, not once, but twice. And it's still, I proceeded based on your direction. You can usually go back after a change order when you get something in writing that might be incorrect. So yeah, it's so
that RFI that he's talking about is request for information. You can always request for information. He's used those terms, RFI, but he's talking about request for information. So when in doubt, even after they've awarded you the contract, please, you could always go and request information. Do not proceed if there's some cloud or some questions before you go off and start running. So request for information in writing.
Yep, that's a good point. That's it. Kind of the last thing in this area, if you're in construction, you will have to do these. Usually, this is the building blocks of what's called a submittal. And so in those drawings and specifications, it'll say, we'll go back to this paint. So it says provide this paint type A, Sherwin-Williams. Usually up under that, then they'll say, here are the submittals, what you must submit in, as the writing piece of it in order to go put that paint up on the wall. They'll usually ask for shop drawings, basically their drawings showing where you're going to put the paint. They'll ask for samples like somebody asked before, where they'll say, just take a piece of something, put the paint color on there and send it to us. We want to make sure it's the right color. They'll ask for what's called product data or a cut sheet, literally something you probably pull offline. You just download it. You might have test reports if it's something special there. They'll ask for a warranty for anything that needs to come back and be fixed. And it'll give you the terms usually of whatever that warranty is. You might have to, this is where it gets us in trouble as well, certifications. Some products, you have to have a certification to either purchase or install that product. And there's a reason for that. If you're going in and putting in a pool and you have to put gunite, or basically it's that stuff that you see, ever watch HGTV, and you see them blasting something like it looks like cement on the side of the walls in the pool. Well, that's a special certification that you've had to be trained and certified in to install or purchase that product. That gets us in trouble a lot of times because somebody would not have that certification. And then when you install it and it looks bad or it doesn't meet compliance, then they ask, well, show me your 5-year certification that you've done this. And when you ain't got it, now you're going to have to spend the money again to take it off and then go find somebody. You have to pay somebody to come in and do it for you, or they will take it out of your contract and supplement you. And I guarantee you that's in contract terms as well. Inspections and then what they call kind of as-built is basically show us what you built on paper and just draw up something showing, yep, this is where I put it. It meets the design, or nope, I moved this wall over 4 feet and here's the new location. This is usually the basis of submittals. Again, you'll get that spec, or it'll tell you what to provide in your scope, and right up under it, they'll say submittals, and it'll tell you item number 1, shop drawings, item number 2, samples, 3, it'll go all the way down. So again, do not ignore your contract. It is in there. And if you ignore it, you will pay for it on the backside. Or again, when we get into schedule, I'll show you where it impacts you as well, because you'll need all that stuff up front. All right. All right, we'll go to the next section. So the other thing that really impacts from a risk management, you got the contract, is your material and labor. The real big way to look at this is when you get your contract, the first thing you want to be able to do is say, do I have the correct material per the specifications that we just talked about? Again, what always gets us in trouble is saying, we've always done it this way. If I can't say this and stress it more than anybody in this world, do not substitute or cut corners. If it says product A, then do not go get product B, because when it does not work out and you have to go show, it'll hurt you. I promise you. And it usually does. And a lot of us probably understand that. We've had that happen. Again, with the material, you want to confirm the amount that you have. So hopefully you got a good estimate. Here's in today's time, a lot of us talk about long lead times, things that it's a long shipment. There's a break in the supply chain. The first thing you want to do is when you get your contract is you want to tell them how long will it take for you to get that material on site, and you have to be honest. I know we put floats. I know we add an extra week or 2 to whatever you hear from the manufacturer, but being honest with the owner and the city, that'll help you out on the backside, because say something like right now, card readers for all buildings, I'm being as honest, it's about 50 weeks. It's over almost 2 years before you can get card readers. So it's one of those things that if you're upfront and honest, then you're trying to find an alternate or a substitute or something temporary to help the project continue. And usually you can ask for a change order to get that temporary measure in due to lead times in the market. Looking at unforeseen, like we just mentioned, the impacts with the shortages, out of stock, the pandemic that hits. And then again, we were talking about shipping as well. So just making sure that you include everything you need for shipping. Say that like 10 times over. It's not just enough to call the manufacturer, order it, it gets sent to the site, and you have no way to offload it. You don't have any transportation. You don't have labor to transport it. You're just like, oh, I got it ordered and it's here. You're going to pay to get that thing off the truck, because if not, that truck's going to go right back to wherever it came from. So making sure, you've included this in your contract number for shipping and everything that might be associated. The next big thing is labor and production. So understanding, again, inside of your number, stagnant and productivity levels. So making sure you're having your workforce, when they're there, they are productive. So having meetings with them, what they call toolbox talks, daily discussions, making sure they're on track of things, and kind of tracking what's kind of what we call plan versus actual. So you should plan what you should do for the week. You should know where on Monday where you're at, and on Friday you should be able to tell us on Monday where you'll end up. And then on Friday you're able to say what we actually did. So planning that projected versus actual, that's always a good thing. We understand that there's labor shortages. So looking at ways to offset that, that's the bigger piece that you want to make sure that you're mentioning. Confirm your pay rates, make sure you're paying people what they're asking for, to get the best labor that's there. Again, safety, make sure you've included safety, your personal protective equipment. You got gloves, hard hat. I hate for people to show up to my job and then they're saying they didn't know they needed a vest and hard hat and glasses on the construction site. And then they come over and they ask us to give them some. And unfortunately, I tell them to go get all 10 of their workers and go down to the store and buy it on their own. So just making sure you have the right stuff that's there. And then really the technology piece, make sure you have the right technology, computer programs and everything you need to do the job, have the right tools for the right job. So just making sure you have that out there. That's the most important thing. Another risk factor we kind of talked about in the contract.
Hold 1 second, Bobby.
Yes.
Let me just
Mhm.
make that announcement. So if you have any questions, I know he's going pretty fast. If you have any questions, please put your questions in the Q&A box, because this is very, very important. And when we talk about construction schedule, and so one question that I have, Bobby, is that if someone has a contract and they're running behind schedule or shortages with labor, how should they address this and get ahead of it?
There's a lot of, it's a good question. There's a lot of different avenues. I would probably say, first, if you can't solve it on your own, usually if you go and sit with the owner or whoever the client is and explain that, hey, we see we're a week behind, we're a few days behind, we're having issues with labor. Sometimes they will have resources that they can provide you. The easier option, but it's costly, and this is where kind of having a network of other companies that either do it, that they provide the same service, or resources that can provide you something. I would say at that point, it's better to finish the project on time, or at least, when it's scheduled or when you agreed upon schedule. And so go spend the money to go and get the resources that you need. So like I'm reading here now, Abigail's asking, how do you find people to do labor? Labor is rough right now. It is very, very hard. What I have seen and what we're seeing on our job sites, it's labor is, I don't know what's going on right now. A lot of people do not want to work. And so really and truthfully, it's going to the labor sources out there. So like Labor Ready, Staff Zone, Trojan Labor, good grace, I can probably name 10 of them out here in town at least. That's the best way to find quick resources. You will have to pay for them. But outside of that, I would then say you just have to talk to people and see who has available resources as well. But yeah, labor shortages is very, very hard. We're struggling with it as well. And sometimes paying people a little more, it helps out in the long run. Good question.
Yes, that's a great question. All right.
All right.
And you need to also be upfront. If you run into problems on the job, sometimes you have people working and for some reason they walk off the job. Or you may have had them already under contract to do this job. And because sometimes projects get held up because you might have part D and you have to wait until part C is done. And now all of a sudden you thought you had 10 workers. Now they've gone on to do something else because of rain delays, things are out of your control. What happens when your people walk off the job and your labor pool has been decreased? Do you try to show up and do it with 2? Or do you inform the owner what your problem is?
Yeah.
You tell me, Bobby.
Yeah, no, I'm always upfront. Let the owner know what the issue is. And usually I'll let them know in writing, especially if somebody else is holding me up. If there's somebody who's holding you up, you have to send over a delay. I guarantee you in everybody's contract, there's a delay clause in there that there's something that says you have to send it over in writing, usually within a certain time period, like 48 hours or 24 hours. I would say be upfront and just let the owner know what the impact is. And then you have to say that impact, how many days is it going to impact you? And even if that means, hey, I still want to let me know that you're going above and beyond, you're going to accelerate your schedule and what mitigation factors you're going to do, whether it be, I'm going to work nights, I'm going to work the weekend, I'm going to work through this holiday period, but oh, by the way, it's going to cost you this to do that, or I'll just stay on the, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 40 hours. And that's, I think having that conversation with the client or owner, that'll help you out a lot in some of that. So, yeah.
So someone asked a question, what if the owner is holding you up? What if the city is holding you up?
If the city's holding you up, nah, I mean, it's every project, everything has its hurdles. And I think just sitting down, having that discussion and having a very real and honest discussion. Sometimes nobody's going to be happy, but it's part of the job. And you just have to kind of work through it. And realistic expectations is kind of what everybody has to get to. Because if something can't happen, then I would just say start going into temporary measures, or what I always say is, on opening day, what will it look like? If we don't have this, this, and this, what would it look like? And then that's kind of setting the expectations from there. So that's the best advice I can give. Nobody's ever happy, I promise you.
Exactly. And you can't go and request rain days or delays date to be added to the contract. You can go back and renegotiate some days to be added to your contract.
Yep, exactly. Good question.
Okay. All right, we can move on.
All right. So next is kind of, we want to talk about schedule and sequence, right? This is another big piece in your contract. Usually 90% of the time, your contract has a completion date on there. And for a lot of us, you get this schedule and that thing looks like the Matrix. I am telling you, it's one of those things that I tell people, if you can't read a schedule, usually what they call a P6 schedule, Primavera schedule, this thing, I've seen this thing take people down. I've even seen foremen and supervisors who've been building for 20, 30 years, and they can't read a schedule sometimes. And what I tell people is, like, this right here might be one page of, I think the largest I ever saw on a project, we had like a 300-page schedule, and it was everything in the entire job looked like this. It's daunting. Beyond the colors and all that fun stuff, these schedules, you have to go through it and really look at it and say, what is my work? Like, this is a construction schedule. And the first thing I tell people, hey, Mr. Concrete guy, you need to go through this big schedule and look at what you owe and what areas and when will you be holding somebody else up. And so the way you decode the matrix schedule is you have to go through and really look at it and say, well, what am I doing? And then once you go and pull all your stuff out, it then shortens the schedule up. And I'm gonna throw this out there to you as well. Whatever company put this schedule together, they can give you this schedule as well. You can ask for it. Say, hey, I want to see a schedule with just my activities. Again, if you have a bad relationship with them, they probably will say no, but sometimes they'll go and pull it out for you like this. And then you'll be able to see what your actual activities are. And so like this one, it's just like residential construction, you're doing a single house, and oh, look, I only have, 8 items in there out of that 300-page schedule. And this will help you to digest the schedule a lot easier, as long as you're hitting your dates that are there. And this will tell you exactly when you start, when you finish each activity on the schedule. And again, it'll really help you to decipher that schedule out there. I tell people this all the time when it comes to scheduling. These are some of the easiest ones that I've ever used. The P6 schedule is a common practice schedule. But again, that program might cost you about $3,000 or $4,000. And so there is a free version, which is called Smart Sheets. And then if you have Microsoft Project, that's also sometimes comes with the Microsoft Suite, or it's a little bit cheaper for it. But if you're like some of us, that makes it a lot easier, even more, good old Excel, or you can get a pen and piece of paper. And this is easy. All you do is you write whatever those activities are. And that, again, writing down every step that you have to do. You have to, this is the concrete guy. You have to mobilize. I have to order the materials, deliver materials, all the way down to inspections and backfill, and I'm done. Then all I do up at the top is I write the start date, and I say, hey, mobilization is going to take me, what is this, 6 days. And all I do is put a X in those boxes, or I put a green mark. And then when you do that for each activity, it then tells you this is a, you can walk into anywhere and this is a schedule. Nobody can deny that this is not a schedule. It's not as sexy as that schedule or that schedule, but you know what it is? That Excel sheet is a schedule, and it's just as good, if not even better. And it gives you a real range of when something activity starts and when it finishes. And you can talk to anybody about this on any job. So this is scheduling 101. And yeah, hopefully you don't end up on a job that has a 300-page schedule. It'll hurt you. It really hurts you. Another risk management factor is logistics. Doesn't matter if we're talking construction, doesn't matter if I'm talking, you're ordering shirts for the city, you're doing sewer services, logistics. And the way I always look at it is, I point this out to people all the time. If you have a company and you're doing something and you literally are just driving blind, you will not see things coming at you. And the sad part about it is a lot of people get that contract and they have no clue where they're driving. They don't know, they know where it starts because they just got the contract, but they don't know where they're going, and they don't know when they'll actually end. And things like this could happen. I hope no kangaroos jump at you, but hey, this is somebody that's driving blind out there, thinking they got their headlights on and they're driving on the wrong road. And so what I point out to everybody sometimes is you get your contract, and the first thing you want to do is you want to map out, literally map out what you're going to do. Again, whether it's the construction route that you're going to take to get into the site, whether it's, hey, where do I wash my concrete out at? You got to discuss things like that. Where do I have my dumpster where I have to dump my waste? Hey, where do I lay my material down? I can put this scenario into so many different things. Say you're delivering, say the city has, they want you to purchase all these uniforms, and then they want you to deliver them to different places. It's the same thing. Please map out what you're doing. If you have no clue where you're driving, you will be in the dark. And again, you'll be like that kangaroo who had a better time than the person driving. So this is just a short warning on just please make sure you're mapping out what you're going to do. Because a lot of times you put this on a map and you're able to see things that would interfere with what you're going to do. And now you're able to really figure out, well, maybe I can't put my lay down area over there, or hey, maybe my dumpster needs to go closer to the entrance, or maybe the concrete washout needs to be closer to the entrance. So asking those questions to yourself, it'll help out a lot. All right, and last but not least, payment terms. This risk management, big piece of it, you just won your contract. A lot of people flip to this page first. They want to know, when am I getting paid? Well, guess what? You ain't getting paid if you ain't doing all that other stuff that we had on all those other slides. You might as well not even flip to this page. You might as well flip to whatever the terms are that's going to be arbitration. So this is the bigger piece of what, when you look at your payment terms in that contract, you really want to look at different things like your monthly payments. You might have won that contract and then you got your RFP and you were looking at it, and now you get your contract. You need to know, are you getting paid in 30 days, 45, 90 days? You know, sometimes you might be a subcontractor and you might not get paid till the owner gets paid, the prime contractor gets paid. And those are terms that you really got to make sure you're looking at. A good piece of that as well is, I'm gonna jump all the way down to the bottom one, which is early payments. Sometimes you can ask the prime contractor or the city, do they have an early payment program? Is there a way I can get paid a little earlier? Are there ways that I can front load my contract payment in order to get paid a little earlier? And so things like that would be in like your AI. For us in construction, they have a form that I'm going to show you. It's called the AIA G702 and 703. and that's my payment terms. You can look at things like that. You want to be able, sometimes on that, they'll ask for stored materials, where you might end up asking, they might say, all right, you ordered some materials and you have them stored somewhere. In order to get paid, you must show us pictures, or you must get a bonded letter or notarized showing that you have these materials somewhere before we'll pay you for them. And including joint checking. I would always say, especially sometimes as a smaller minority-owned business, you really want to go in asking, hey, Mr. Owner, or hey, general contractor, could you pay my vendor for me each month? I'll have them invoice, they'll pay, you pay them, I'll get the materials. Sometimes the GCs and them, they'll do that for you, and that'll help you not have to carry that burden of having to get the money first, then go pay, because sometimes they won't release the materials till you pay them up front. So these are just good terms to look at. This right here, again, is a standard contract payment form, the G702 and 703. This is basically, it just shows your contract. It tells you who you owe. It'll tell you your change orders. This is what I try to help people with. You'll see this second page to it, which is the 703, the G703. And they're like, well, this is my schedule of values. What is this? The easiest thing I can tell people to do to fill out their schedule of values sometimes is to go back to that schedule. That schedule typically will lay out all of your activities. Clearly, it's a percentage base over time. Each of these activities, as you do it, you can actually go back into your schedule of values and outline each one of those items. That right there is your schedule of values, which was your schedule. And that will tell you, and I'm being very, again, that $1.2 million contract that you signed at the beginning, look here, your mobilization, 100,000, it's never this even, I promise. You send this over to somebody on the first pencil copy, they'll mark it up, but this is where you're able to go through and literally each one of your activities became a line item for you to get paid. That's the easiest way I can explain it sometimes. And again, if you don't know how to do it, you want to sit with the city representative, you want to sit with the general contractor, the owner, and you want them to sit down and really show you how they would like to see it and help you along through the process. And if you've never seen this, the schedule of values will hurt you on the back end because you will not get paid. Again, if you didn't do all that stuff that we were talking about before, you didn't follow the specifications, you didn't do all the other stuff, then it's hard to get paid. And this form can hold you to it. A lot of times that it's never fun. Let me put it that way. But hopefully, you got your contract. It's all like this, and you're just everywhere. You don't know where to go. You don't know what to do. Hopefully now some of these risk mitigating factors and things we talked about, hopefully you're now on a clearer road moving forward. And as always, it's always easier for everybody. If you got questions, if there's anything that I can help with, that's my contact information right there. Reach out to me. I don't mind helping. And if I don't have the answer, I'll point you back to Miss Jordan and she can help you out with the answer. Matter of fact, start with Miss Jordan first, and then she can reach out and y'all can reach out to me and I'll help out where I can. But hopefully this is helpful. I'll take any questions. I know we got like a couple minutes. I try to go right up to the time, but
all right.
Hopefully this is helpful.
All right. So now Mr. Teachey has done a great job in telling us what we need to do in order to be successful and to get paid. And when you are successful and get paid, guess what? When you do a good job, then you get more contracts, don't you?
That's usually a good
you
thing.
Get more contracts. So any other questions? Let's see. We got lots of thank yous. And I know that a lot of you have been on all 4 parts. I want to say congratulations and how to win the contract. We started first being certified. Then we talked about federal contracting 101. And then we went on to understanding the scope. And now you got the contract, now what? And so Mr. Teachey has done a fabulous job walking you through this, because sometimes it does become a maze, and you gotta lay the job out so that you make sure that you know where you're going and you understand that you don't want those kangaroos jumping out at you and you running in and having accidents. I had a lot of very distinct questions. She says, so this approval is for architects and not government procurement officers. This process basically can be used across the board. It doesn't matter whether it's state, federal, or local contracts. The process of moving forward and getting projects completed, you can use across the board, correct, Bobby?
Yes, this is usually the exact same process, government or municipality or private.
That's right. Mhm. And so whether you are in construction, professional services, or providing supplies, it's all the same things. You got to have a schedule. You got to know what the logistics are. You got to understand, you got to lay the job out. It's just more than once I get the contract, now what? So you can follow this process across the board. And so again, I want to thank Bobby for being our final speaker today. But more importantly, I want to thank all of you who attended all 4 sessions today. And these recordings will be made available to you. And again, thank you for spending 4 consecutive Wednesdays with us. I like to call it the hour power, so that you can empower yourself to be successful. Again, my name is Ruth Jordan with the City of Charleston, along with Christina Ott. If we can be of any assistance, please feel free to give us a call. We'll see you real soon. Reach out to me. My contact information is there. And again, let's give Mr. Teachey a great hand of appreciation for participating with us. Again, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, all of you, for being with us tonight. Please stay safe and stay dry, and we'll see you next month for our next webinar. Follow us on our website with the City of Charleston to see all of our upcoming webinars that we will be presenting. Again,